Right, thanks very much for joining the Careers Inspiration webinar today. These sessions are designed to introduce you to a range of different people who've chosen a career in technology, and we'll get to hear from them about their background and their experience and find out about what their job's like. So we'll be speaking to people who've taken all sorts of different paths as well. Some people who've done apprenticeship, some people went to university, some people changed careers, and we've got people who work for big companies, small companies, and some people who've even started their own company. And that way you can find out about lots of different opportunities. So today we're joined by Tara Reddy, who works in augmented reality, and we'll be chatting for around 10 minutes and answering a few questions. So let's get started. First of all, I think, Tara, for anyone who doesn't know, can you explain briefly what augmented reality is?
Yeah, of course. So augmented reality is basically putting a digital layer on the real world. So Snapchat filter is an amazing example of that. So you can see yourself in the camera, but Snapchat puts some really cool digital effects like the dog ears onto your face. And that's like a really simple but effective use of AR. And it can be used in loads of things. So it can be used in things like games, in sports training, and even in the military as well. But in my company, we focus on games.
That's awesome. And so can you tell us a bit about what you do in your job?
Yeah, absolutely. So my job title is CEO and co-founder. So I started the company called Love Shark with another person who I used to work with in one of my old jobs. And my role is basically to do everything to do with business, to plan our products, what we're going to launch and who we're launching it for. And then to do things like look at the data. So if we launch a product, we say, okay, how many people used it and what did they do? So I look after sort of product and business, and then my co-founder, he's an engineer. So he looks after actually building the stuff and actually the design as well.
That's amazing. And so you said you're focused on games. Can you tell us about what you're currently working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So the type of games we make are called camera games. So it's any game that you can play in the camera of a mobile phone. So I can show you a couple of examples. So I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. So I'll show you. You should be able to see here a GIF. So this is a game that we made called Laser Draw, which is like augmented reality Pictionary. So you can see two people on their mobile phones there. One person is drawing by moving their phone through the air, and the other person can see the picture, but they have to guess what it is. So that's like a view from two phones you can see there. So it's like a 3D Pictionary, really.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I've got a second one here, which was a bit more recent. Just try and move on to my, here we go. So now you can see lots of weird images of me dancing in my house. But this is a game called dance.io. So basically you put your phone down like you do in TikTok and you stand back, and you can see yourself in the camera. And then you have to dance along to the songs and follow the dancer. And if you get the moves right, then you get a score. So we actually use technology to detect if you're doing the moves right there. So we call it like a TikTok, but it's a game.
Okay, awesome. And if people wanted to have a go on these, they're available on the App Store, right?
Yeah, they're both available on Apple just now, but we will be going to Android in the future as well.
That's great, thanks. And obviously this technology is all quite new. So how did you get into it? Where did you start off?
So I actually, when I was at school, I was really into science, and I loved art as well. So I actually did science and art. And then when I went to university, I actually studied veterinary medicine. So I've always loved animals, and I like finding a way to, help people. So I studied for 5 years, and then I became a vet. I spent 6 years working as a vet. And then I felt after 6 years that I didn't have enough way to use my creativity in my job. So, I was seeing animals all day, every day and helping them, but I wanted to do something more creative and to build something and to reach more people in the world. And I had no idea how to do that because all I ever knew was how to be a vet. So I actually went online one night and I Googled business courses because I wanted to find out, what else, how could I learn about other things outside of the veterinary world? And I found this thing called an MBA, which a lot of people in business know about, but as a vet, I'd never heard of it. And it was basically like a master's of business. that would mean that I could expand my knowledge base. So I actually came to London, did an MBA in London Business School. So I came to London, studied business, and when I was in business school, I noticed that most people around me were really into things like finance, or they wanted to go and work in big corporates, and that was never something that I was really very interested in. But I'd always been a bit interested in technology. So while I was studying, I started interning at a few small technology startups, so very small companies with less than 10 people that were building cool technology products. And then I found out that I absolutely loved that, because it's a place, in technology, you can just move really fast. You can build products or apps in weeks to months, and then you can get them out there to millions of people, and you can be as creative as you like. So I found that like I was a fish to water. This like really worked for me. So as soon as I graduated, I thought, okay, I want to go and work for a company doing big things and really interesting things. And I found a company called Blipper, who were doing augmented reality. And I found that they had this amazing vision. And I thought, these are people I want to work for. And I didn't know what role I would do, because I'd only been a vet and then studied an MBA. I didn't have job experience necessarily in technology. But I basically went to them and said, I think your company is really interesting. I can do lots of different things, I know about business, I know about product, I know about data. Where can I fit in? And they said, okay, well, we only have a job in sales right now. So I didn't really want to do sales, but I joined their sales team. Am I still there?
Yeah.
Sorry, it froze. It freezes a little bit. So I joined the sales team, and I basically spent 6 months working in a job, getting to understand the company, until they said, actually, there's a job now on our product team. You can come and you can be part of making the apps. And I said, great, that's where I want to be. So then I moved sideways to get to that job. So, and then after 2 years working in that job, I said, okay, and now I'm ready to start my own company. I think there's an amazing opportunity for augmented reality games, and I want to try. So, my career path has been a bit winding. I've tried a lot of different things. I've experimented. I've often joined companies not really knowing how the job is going to pan out. But for me, I've always found that when I've went for something that excited me, it's usually worked out in the end. So yeah, and now today we have Love Shark, and we've been running this company for 2 years. And we're now 8 people, and we're getting bigger and bigger. So it's been pretty fun.
Yeah, it sounds very successful. And what would you say are kind of like the most exciting bits of what you do? What kind of gets you out of bed in the morning?
I love the possibility that we can create something that nobody else has created. We're making new technology. So we're sort of there's a lot of opportunity for us to experiment and just come up with crazy things. So I love that. I love that creativity, and the team that I work with are such wonderful creative people, and I love working with them. And then I think the other thing is making products that real people in the world can use. So I know that I can put an app on the App Store, and then we can have fans in the Philippines that absolutely love our apps, sending us, giving us App Store reviews saying how wonderful it is. That's amazing that like real people that you've never even met can like absolutely fall in love with what you've built.
Yeah. And it sounds like, you've got quite a small team and things happen very, very rapidly. Do you have a typical working pattern, or what would a typical day look like for you?
It changes all the time for me. So in the morning we have a team meeting. So we talk for 15 minutes. And we just work out what everyone's doing on that day, and then everyone goes off and does their own thing. For me, I will usually have some meetings with maybe other people that have started companies to discuss ideas or look at like a business plan that I'm working on, get their advice on it. And then later that morning, I might be looking at spreadsheets trying to work out, okay, how much money do we have in the bank, and do we have enough, and what are we going to do with that money, what are we going to budget for? And then in the afternoon, maybe the team have given me a prototype or a design that they've made, and I'm looking at that, giving them feedback. And then at the end of the day, I could be looking at analysing the data from what the players have been doing in the app that day, who's been doing what, have they done what we thought they were going to do, and then saying, okay, this is what we learned. Tomorrow we're going to change this because that's what the players are saying to us. So extremely varied, but yeah, very fun.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And we've talked a lot about work. How about outside of work? Do you have any particular interests or hobbies that you like to do?
So I never thought I would say this, but I actually quite like doing my garden now. I don't know what happened. Like I became 30 and suddenly I like gardening. But then also I love playing games. So I play games a lot on the weekends. So at the moment I'm obsessed with Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
as a lot of people are. So I'm building my island, and then I also love PC games. So I've been playing like things like Tropical, so simulation games on the PC as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so for the viewers who are watching today, if they've been kind of really inspired by what you've said and are interested in getting involved either with games or augmented reality in some way, what would your tips be for people who are interested in following a similar kind of path?
I think there's all the information is now out there online. So if you're like interested in design, for example, there's so many accounts you can follow and blogs you can follow and online courses that you can do for free. Or if you're interested in coding, for example, they're out there and you can get started online and usually free or cheap. So if there's a particular skill that you're interested in, I'd say go for it. If you're interested in something maybe a little bit more like business side or something like that, I would like follow and keep up with the news on what's happening in that sector. So if it's technology, you're always up to date with the latest apps, what the trends are, things like that. And so I think, taking, even if you're at school and you feel like, oh, some of my subjects don't feel relevant all the time, I think, expanding your education by giving yourself those skills that you can sort of learn on the side. And I also think don't underestimate the possibility of maybe doing things like an internship. So a lot of big companies, or even smaller ones, they want to, especially if they're building products for young people, they want to get young people's opinion on what they're doing. And sometimes they'll have them for internships. In our company, we do things like focus groups, where we get teenagers in to actually test games or give us their thoughts on things, or sometimes we'll send them an app at home to test and give us feedback on. And because we work with Gen Z, we want to hear from them, and we're definitely not the only company. So you're not going to send one email and then the company will come back and say, yeah, here's an internship and we're going to pay you lots. But if you actually look at, singling down to like, okay, these are 5 companies I find really interesting. I'd love to like learn about it or have a day in the life. And just find a way to get in touch with them, email them, ask, inquire. Maybe you'll end up with an internship. Maybe there's someone that can just have a coffee with you or a tea and just tell you about what it's like in that job and sort of open up sort of a road to mentorship. And then there's a lot of programs that are coming out now that are trying to get young people into technology, and especially ones maybe from minority backgrounds or young females who maybe they didn't, tech hasn't always been advertised to them as a viable career. So a few examples that I can come up with the top of my head is things like Code First Girls or 21 Code Street. They're both coding academies and boot camps. Specifically aimed at young females. So there's a lot of clubs and initiatives out there that want young people to come into tech. So look for those as well. They can be an amazing stepping stone.
That's fabulous advice. And you mentioned briefly about the business side there, and obviously you have gone on to set up your own company. What was that like? Was it quite difficult to set up, or how did you find that process?
I think you never feel like you're ready to start your own company. You always wish like you could learn a little bit more or get a bit more prepared. But for me, I just found that actually just going out and doing it was the best way to learn. And yeah, like I often felt unprepared, or like I didn't know everything I needed to know. But one of the biggest things for me was just accepting that yeah, you are still learning, and there's a type of education that you're never going to get in a classroom, that you just have to go out and do that. So I think, yes, it was intimidating. I often felt like maybe I wasn't good enough or I wasn't ready, but I just did it anyway. And over time, you just get better. It's like anything, you practice and you get better. And I think one of the biggest things is find people who are a step ahead of you, and, you know, get them as your mentors or get them as your friends. Like, they're the best people to help you. So I met a lot of people who'd started games companies, but maybe they'd done it 1 or 2 years before me, and they were able to help give me so much advice and help me with problems that seemed really big to me, but for them, they'd already been through that. It wasn't, you know, such a big deal. So I think forming your own little community of people who can help is huge as well.
Yeah, that's great. And with the focus on augmented reality, because it's quite a new technology, and you came into it a few years ago, so when it was really, really new, how did you kind of learn about that? Did you take some time to teach yourself, or how did you go about that?
So anybody that I met that I thought was really clever or interesting in augmented reality, I would try to talk to them. So whether it's someone that I could reach out onto LinkedIn, or it was someone working at the same company as me, but maybe they were in a different area. So I would try to talk to a lot of people and get a lot of ideas and information from that. I would educate myself through what was available online. And then also, I think when something's quite new, or maybe not when it's just new, maybe anything at all, I felt like there was a lot of things that I could learn from other people, but because this was such a new canvas, I also wanted to come up with my own ideas about it as well. So I took as much education as I could from the world around me, but I also knew that, like, there's so much that hasn't been learnt yet that people don't know yet. So I would do things like mind mapping, or I would get a whiteboard and draw things out, because I would like have a vision of where I think augmented reality could go that maybe no one else had seen yet. So it was kind of a balance between getting the information that was already there, and also thinking forward to the future of what this could be. And like, everyone has their own way of being creative. Some people are, you know, they're more creative by talking to other people and having a conversation. Some people are more visual and they want to draw things out. You know, like, everyone has their own way. So I think, you know, it's good to get information from the world around you, but don't forget to, like, trust your own gut and your own creativity as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then the final one really is just about when you were sort of younger, or when you were looking to change your career, who did you go to for careers advice? Was there anyone who pointed you in a particular direction, or anyone who really helped you move along?
Yeah, so when I first thought about going back to study business, I didn't know anybody that had done something like that before. So I basically asked around all of my friends and said, do you know anyone who's done something like this before? And then a couple of them said, actually, I know one guy from work, or I know one person from somewhere else that that's done that. So then I would, you know, then I went and met up with them, and maybe we went for a coffee, or had some food together and had a chat. And then they would be like, oh, there's someone else you should talk to, because actually they are more interested in the same things as you. So it started with me going to my immediate network of friends and people around me. And then, you know, as you start to meet people, they usually can introduce you to other people, and then it can sort of become a bit of a like a chain reaction. So yeah, that's how it went. Very organic. I'm not a person who will like plan it all out on a spreadsheet and have a hit list. But I find that just meeting and talking to real people with the same interests and just hearing about their experiences, it's super helpful.
That's great. That's great. And on that note, anyone who's watching can get in touch with you, can't they, on Twitter if they've got any questions? What's your Twitter handle?
Yeah, so it's @Tara Louise Reddy. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And we'll put it at the bottom as well, so people know how to contact you. And that's great. So any questions about anything that we've talked about today, just get in touch and you'll be there to respond, which is fabulous. So thank you. Thanks very much.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me.